An ANC councillor is gunned down in the Eastern Cape as government sets up a task team to investigate alleged political killings. The SABC does an about-turn, announcing it will reinstate 7 of the 8 journalists dismissed last week. This is eNEWS Direct. Good evening. I'm Shahan Ramkisu.
And I'm Sandy Lagangmase. Good evening.
To comment on our stories, find us on Twitter and Facebook at eNEWS Direct.
And tonight our hashtags are political killings, SABC 8 and Tembisa tornado.
Another ANC member has been gunned down, this time in the Eastern Cape. Councillor Nceba Dwili was killed in Port Elizabeth last night. Hours earlier, he went on a door-to-door campaign. He's the 13th ANC member who's been killed since electioneering started earlier this year.
The family is still in shock. As top ANC leaders visit Nceba Dwili's house to offer their condolences.
God is still the shepherd of this home.
The 35-year-old councillor candidate has been described by relatives as the family's first leader, who they'd hoped would fly their name high.
He was a good person. He was a humble guy. He was a leader. Whenever we need someone to talk to, he was always there.
His poster still hangs in the street outside his family's house, a constant reminder of their loss.
When thugs take over politics, you must know that you are going to be in trouble more than you imagine. Because when there are killings that are political, that is thuggery, it's not politics.
Dwili dropped his colleague off at her home in Zwede, as he did every night after work, when 2 suspects opened fire on his car.
Ndiveyizithonga eziyi-4 kuthe kusatsho izithonga wabaleka uthandeka wangena endlini. Xa engena endlini wathi maqinisa uba ndiyavula icango ndaphuma. Uphuma kwam ndabona imoto kaNceba ime apha phandle. Ndavula inqandi yayo kuvuleka icango elala kadrayiva. Ndayotsho phaa kuye xa ndifika ulele apha phantsi.
At this moment we've got no leads and then no one has been arrested, but murder and the attempted murder case have been opened.
His passenger, Thandeka Mazawule, was shot and injured. She's in a stable condition in hospital. The ANC says Dwili's name will still appear on the ballot paper, as the IEC processes have now closed. Sandy McCowan, Port Elizabeth.
Police Minister Nathi Nhleko says while the murders of politicians in KwaZulu-Natal are suspicious, it's not been confirmed that they are politically motivated. And Nhleko says while the recent spate of crimes involving politicians are worrying, he is confident that next week's local government election will be peaceful.
Police say they're investigating 25 cases of suspected politically motivated crimes in KwaZulu-Natal alone. But Police Minister Nathi Nhleko won't commit to giving exact numbers on how many people have been killed.
The question of whether a matter is political can only be confirmed once you would have run through the full course of whether a particular incident of murder and attempted murder was indeed politically motivated or not. For now, it's something that says we have suspicions that say Rahima was taken out on the basis that she is a candidate.
Nhleko says a 28-person task team, including members of the Hawks and Crime Intelligence, have been deployed to KZN. There are fears that in some cases professional hitmen have been hired to carry out hits. Police say they're working with all involved to get to the bottom of these cases.
The National Prosecuting Authority is also working on us in terms of processing and fast-tracking these particular cases, and there is a particular sort of team or grouping of prosecutors that are going to be focused specifically around these particular matters.
A minimum of 2 police officers will be stationed at each of the more than 22,000 voting stations across the country next week. Additional police will also be deployed to hotspot areas. Lester Kivet, Parliament.
The IEC has officially opened its National Results Centre. The venue in Pretoria will be the operational brain of the polls. And that's where all the results will start trickling in once election booths have been closed. Local and international observers, political parties and journalists will converge on the centre and stay put until the final results are announced. In a dramatic about-turn, the SABC now says it'll reinstate all 7 journalists it dismissed for challenging its censorship policies. The broadcaster earlier today barred 4 of the 7 from entering its office, despite yesterday's Labour Court order allowing for their immediate reinstatement.
For a few hours on Wednesday, it seemed as if the SABC wasn't going to budge. When journalists Futa Krige, Suna Venter, Jacques Steenkamp and Krivani Pillay reported for duty, they were prevented from accessing the building. Instead, the SABC served them with a letter of intent to appeal the Labour Court judgment in their favour.
It's actually a pity that we sit in a situation where we must force things that's morally right and legally right through via courts. It shows for us that the SABC simply does not have the moral integrity at this stage to adhere to court orders.
But as outrage brewed in some circles and the Journalists' Union planned its next move, the SABC had a change of heart, reinstating not only the 4, but also 3 other employees who were meant to challenge their dismissal in court on Thursday. The media statement was terse and gave no reasons for the twist in the tale.
Yes, I have spoken to them. Of course, there's a lot of relief. This is another resounding defeat for SABC management. They've been forced to backtrack yet again on an idiotic and unjustifiable decision that was taken.
The journalists' reinstatement is the second major climb down by SABC management. Last week, they finally agreed to abide by an ICASA order for them to end their ban on televising violent protest images. A victory for the 7 journalists, but the battle continues for freelancer and SABC contributing editor Vuyo Mvoko. His case is headed for the High Court. Thulasizwe Simelane.
Mopping up operations are underway in Tembisa after a tornado hit the East Rand yesterday. Government officials are helping residents rebuild their homes.
The Pumulani Mall was right in the path of the tornado. Every shop has been damaged in some way.
Government officials say it's a miracle that as the tornado ripped through this mall, not a single person was killed. But there was a lot of destruction, and it's not yet clear how long it's going to take to repair it or how much it's going to cost.
Tembisa residents have started to rebuild their homes. It's estimated that 120 properties were affected. Emergency services and the Red Ants are on site to help. Several power lines were downed, the worst damage to public property. They're now being repaired. The local hospital was also affected.
There are 4 ambulances that were damaged yesterday. So one of the major problems as people who had been injured were trying to get to the hospital because the hospital was itself a scene of the disaster.
We just assess the damage. It's nowhere near being declared a disaster. Disaster is when the human settlement is almost bordering on a state of dysfunctionality.
Officials say they'll only know the full cost of repairs in the next few days. Teresa Taylor, Tembisa.
U.S. presidential hopeful Hillary Clinton is making history. She's the first woman to be endorsed by the country's major political party.
History in the making, as Hillary Clinton's 2016 bid for the White House is solidified by the Democrats. Her husband, America's 42nd president, described his wife as being uniquely qualified for the job at hand.
Hillary, first and foremost, was a mother. She became, as she often said, our family's designated worrier, born with an extra responsibility gene.
Her nomination also has the backing of mothers of the Black Lives Matter movement. The mother of a Florida teenager gunned down in 2012 during a dispute over loud rap music added her voice to the growing support for Clinton.
Hillary Clinton isn't afraid to say that Black lives matter. She isn't afraid to sit at a table with grieving mothers and bear the full force of our anguish.
Clinton's solidarity with the Latino community has made her the popular choice against her rival, Republicans' Donald Trump.
So when Donald Trump calls us criminals and rapists, he's insulting American families. My father is not a criminal or rapist. In fact, he's a United States veteran.
Reuters Ipsos polling suggests Clinton's overwhelming support from the minorities could help her in swing states like Florida, Nevada, and Colorado.
Time now for all of your social media, Shahan.
All right, thanks, Andelia. Now, 4 people have been arrested following protests in Kliptown in Soweto. The area has been sealed off with more than 20 police vehicles patrolling the suburb. Residents have been protesting against the ANC's candidate for the upcoming elections. Police earlier fired rubber bullets and tear gas at demonstrators in an effort to push them back. Marius Fransman has been given access to the ANC's Integrity Commission's report that found him guilty of bringing the party into disrepute. Fransman wants to be reinstated as the ANC's Western Cape leader. His lawyer is adamant the court case isn't against the ANC, but rather against Secretary General Gwede Mantashe and the Commission's Deputy Chairperson, Frini Janwala. Fransman believes the committee's refusal to allow him to resume his role contravenes the ANC's constitution. The Western Cape leader faced disciplinary proceedings after being accused of sexually assaulting a woman earlier this year. Now, to comment on these stories and more, check out our Twitter and Facebook pages at eNEWS Direct or go to enca.com/direct. After the break, it's your business news and weather forecast. Welcome back. Motorists are advised to fill up. South Africa's fuel service stations may soon run out of petrol and diesel. The petrol sector union says a strike will start on Thursday after wage talks deadlocked. The strike will see more than 15,000 workers down tools. They're demanding a 9% increase in pay, with employers only offering 7%. Union spokesperson Jerry Nkosi says talks with the National Petroleum Employees Association have been exhausted, with the two parties unable to reach an agreement. The union also demands 8,000 rand as a minimum wage for new entrants across the board. All right, let's see how the markets fared today. Your weather forecast up next with Louis Fernandez.
Welcome to the Weather Centre, everyone. The cut-off low that's been bringing wild weather to the country over the last few days remains in place, now situated over the Western Cape, and we can clearly see the circulation around this low as moisture continues to push further westwards and then back further inland to the north of the low. That brought cold and wet weather to the Northern Cape, as well as snowfalls all across the southern high ground, and we're now starting to see that snow spread into the Eastern Cape, and that snow will remain in place for Thursday as well. In KwaZulu-Natal, on the other hand, it's going to be a sunny and dry day, mild for the interior, not too bad along the north coast. Richards Bay reaches a high of 25 degrees. And moving into the Eastern Cape, we'll see quite a bit of cloud for the province, light showers possible for most areas, and we are expecting that snow to continue for the northern mountains of the province. For the Western Cape, it's going to be mostly cloudy and quite cold, scattered showers all across the coastline of the province, but isolated into the interior. In the Northern Cape, we're also expecting a few drops of rain early in the day over the southern parts, including around Springbok. Uppington, dry, 4 and 18 your temperatures. Cloud cover spreads into the western Free State. We could even have a few drops of rain around Zastron, 11 degrees as a maximum in your area. And in the northwest, it's going to be a very cold morning. Temperatures will slowly recover into the afternoon, reaching the mid to upper teens for most places. Sunny and dry for Limpopo once again. A colder morning for Modimolle and Bela Bela, 1 degree your minimum temperature. And as we cross over into Mpumalanga, we see some very low early morning temperatures on the Highveld, especially for Standerton, dropping down to -5, while Ermelo will be cold in the afternoon, a high of only 13 degrees. A very frosty morning has been forecast for Gauteng, Johannesburg and Soweto, both dropping down to -2 degrees, sunny and somewhat warmer in the afternoon. A look ahead to Friday, and there'll be showers all across the southern parts of the country, a bit of early morning drizzle for Graaf-Reinet, and on Saturday, light rain returns to Durban and Richards Bay, and temperatures continue rising in Gauteng.
Coming up after the break, 10 young chefs turn up the heat as they fight for culinary recognition. The knives are out in Cape Town, but don't worry, the showdown is taking place in the kitchen and the outcome is simply delicious.
Cooking up a storm, no doubt. 10 young cooks are competing for a spot in the San Pellegrino Young Chef Awards to be held in Milan this October.
Cape Town chef de partie Philip Null is battling it out for a spot in one of the first global chef talent searches. The San Pellegrino Young Chef Awards will see cooks from 90 countries compete for the top spot. And this is the Africa and Middle East leg.
It's a dream come true first, and I'm really glad we brought up that world greatest competition for young chef.
It's life-changing. Everything is different. It'll bring you into a new world of chefing, experience, influence.
Each chef could choose to prepare either a starter or a main dish. And they did this with pure precision and skill, cooking well into the evening to impress the judges.
We were looking for inventiveness, creativeness, and the execution had to be absolutely perfect, and also the skill.
And it all boiled down to this.
The winner is Grégoire Berger.
What a fantastic win. Congratulations. How do you feel?
Thank you so much. Amazing. I didn't expect to win, but honestly, it's very, very good.
While South Africa failed to clinch a spot this time around, fingers crossed Gregor Berger will fly the flag high for chefs in Africa and the Middle East. Tanya Neft, Cape Town.
All right, a reminder of our top stories before we go. And ANC councillor is gunned down in the Eastern Cape as government sets up a task team to investigate alleged political killings. The SABC does an about-turn, announcing it will reinstate 7 of the 8 journalists dismissed last week. All right, that's a wrap from the eNEWS Direct team.
It is indeed. Rhythm City's up next.
Until next time, a very good night.